1947. Alan Miller, a homicide detective, a real ace in his field, has nightmares about strange beings. He's called in to investigate the murder of Traffic Detective Patrick Perkins, a most unusual slaying. The sight is not for the faint, but what is most curious is that Perkins's heart has been removed. The only lead is a beautiful silver Starlight, the type of vehicle you'd never take your eye off of. The case runs cold, but Detective Miller is met by a strange being from his nightmares. The alien gives him the rub. He informs Alan that a, quote, shapeshifter, unquote, killed the young traffic detective. The kicker? This monster is hiding within Central Police Station alongside his fellow officers. The detective pays no mind to his encounter, but the same visitor is seen chatting up the captain. Alan marches into the captain's office and meets a young man, Ellis Tate, a new transfer from the Big Apple, a man who's been assigned to be Alan's new partner in the Perkins case. This story is penned by Mr. Tony James, a writer of sorts, a lover of old noir and science fiction. He's accompanied by 3 able-bodied artists, aces in their own field, much like our detective. And hot damn, take a gander at those rewards. Commemorate your purchase with these fine items. Don't be a fuddy-duddy. Back Star Noir today. It's the only way to defeat the communists.
All right, welcome back to the show. First off, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but I also write for the Comic Watch site, and every weekend we do a feature called the Kickstarter Corner, and we try to feature some of the projects that those of us at the site think are interesting, or maybe those that we found just kind of looking through the site. And one of the ones that we came across the other week, a couple weeks ago, was Star Noir by Tony James, and we featured it one week, and then last week we did kind of a boost post. So and he was kind enough to join me today to talk about the Kickstarter. So let me bring him in, and I'll stop blabbing, and we'll let him talk. How's it going?
Hey, I'm doing. How are you doing? Thanks for having me on.
First off, I dig the mustache.
Thank you.
So before we get talking about your project, I like to ask, people I talk to if they remember the first comic book they read, or maybe the one that kind of got them interested in in comics. Do you know which one what that would be for you?
Yeah. My mom bought me this omnibus of the Death and Return of Superman. I had not been following that storyline at all, and I was just kind of blown away by that entire story arc. I loved all the different iterations of Superman and how some of them were bad, and I love the way that he came back through the robot. I thought Superboy had the coolest look. I love the leather jacket. I love the sunglasses. Him playing basketball, that was one of I think that was the first big book that I think I still have that book. And yeah, I just love the big scope of that story, and how creative it was. And I think that's what really got me into comics.
And so when did you, I don't know, get the bug, or, say, hey, I want to kind of make my own comic book?
I think I was always doing some form of comic writing. Like when I was 10, I was really obsessed with Garfield, and I made my own little comic strip, in the basement working on a notepad. And then, as you kind of get older, I was like writing plays for high school. And then I just really in college, started making short films, and I was writing all of these things. They weren't like, short little 2-minute things. He was like 10 minutes or longer. And then right after that, I was going to comic book conventions and was really loving the indie comic scene. And then that'd be like 2012 that I really kind of started writing comics seriously and really learning story structure and the craft, and not just of story structure, but like how the medium of comics work with splash pages and page turns, and how to kind of carry a reader from one issue to the next. So yeah, that's what I've been doing ever since.
And so, how many books have you written, or have you done? Because I know I was looking over your Kickstarter profile, and it looks like you have some other stuff that you've creator stuff that you've done.
Yeah, I mean, I have two other ones that are out there in the wild. I mean, I've written over 10 different stories that are like from like 200 pages all the way to God knows what. Just any kind of wild idea I have, I sit and I take a few months and I actually just work that story out. But the ones that exist out there, the previous one is a cyberpunk comic about a virtual reality bounty hunter. And I also have a web comic right now about a talking pistachio with a mustache. It's called Mustachio, and it's very Garfield inspired. It has a lot of that same of that, a lot of the similar, I hate Mondays cynical humor to it that you see in Garfield.
And so, well, let's get into the your Kickstarter, Star Noir. Kind of give us a summary of what the book is about, and kind of what inspired it.
Sure. So it's called Star Noir. It is a noir story about a 1940s detective who teams up with a gray alien to stop a shapeshifter who's killing LAPD officers inside Central Station. And Central Station is one of the most popular Los Angeles precincts. And it's very much influenced by LA Noir, one of my favorite games of all time, and X-Files, which is a big show that I grew up watching with my dad. And I having such a passion for both just the noir, old Hollywood era, and also with X Files and the way the X Files they took these real, real world alien abduction stories and used it to kind of create their own narrative. And what they ended up with was this kind of almost grounded sense of aliens and this creating this fear of the unknown. So I wanted to kind of take that matter of fact view of aliens with that kind of cold in the air feeling that from your great noir stories and combine them to in a great mashup.
And kind of give us a background of the story. I mean, who's the main characters?
The main character is Alan Miller, homicide detective. He's very good at what he does. He's been around the block many times. And then you have Ellis, who you see there in the cover. For story reasons, Alan can see Ellis's gray alien form, and everybody else sees somebody who looks more like Tom Holland. And so so they have two wildly opposed styles for detective work. Alan is very much not afraid to get his hands dirty to get the information that he needs. And Ellis is the total opposite, just very benevolent. He doesn't like to use a gun, which gets him to a lot of trouble. And it leads to some pretty humorous scenes where he has to use his intellect to get him out of a jam.
And so, now this is this the I would assume because it's book one. There's you would like to do a series of stories with these characters.
Yeah, there are 6 books in this arc, and this is essentially Act 1.
Okay. So, well, let's talk a little bit about the Kickstarter itself. I mean, what are you offering for people who want to back to back the project?
We're offering the book itself. It's 42 pages, very action-packed, very fast-paced. I mean, it is a detective story, so there is that element of a slow burn to it. But my stories, I like something with a little pep in its step. So it is a detective story, but it does have this air of constantly trying to move and get somewhere. So we're not trying to hang out in one spot for too long. You can get the book. You can also get some really nice prints. We have a really cool alien abduction panel that we broke out. There's another one with Alan leaning against his detective car, which is a very cool vehicle. Then you can get baseball cards, which have kind of character stats for some of the main detectives, and even like the type of sidearm that they use. Ellis, the alien, since I mentioned he doesn't use a gun, yeah, he actually doesn't have a sidearm listed on there. And then you can get this really cool poster of the cover that the colorist, he went in and he made it really vintage. He kind of gave it this crease design that makes it look very weathered and dated, which is really cool.
And so, as I was scrolling through here, and before I see this isn't your first Kickstarter. So, what have you learned from your previous Kickstarters that you've kind of tried to apply to
Um,
this one?
Learning that you're essentially running a mini business. I think there was just kind of this naivete of the first Kickstarter that I ran, where it's like just as passionate about the story, just as passionate about having a good team together and having it being a book that people want, but just having such a kind of laid back approach to constantly talking with your readers and your audience, and just I kind of put my head down and I was like, well, I'll give it to them when it's done. Why do I have to bother them with the in between details? And that's not actually a great idea. So this time around, I am much more hands on. I do an update every Friday. And I'm constantly showing them new pages that are not even on the campaign page. So if you go into the updates, you see new pages that are being made right now. And I'm constantly always talking to people on social media about new pages and stuff that we're working on. So yeah, this time I'm much more upfront.
And let's talk a little bit about your creative team. Who are you working with, and how did you kind of get connected with these people?
So Pablo Devanis is from Argentina. He is a really nice guy. I found him through a Facebook group called Connecting Writers and Artists. It's a pretty big Facebook group in the community. And I just I put out a posting that I was looking for an artist for this noir book. I sent him the script, and he just thought it was incredible. Like he just wanted to. He was already giving me concept art because he was very excited about it. And then I really don't know how to pronounce my colorist's name, so I'm just going to call him Vinny Townsend. He is from Brazil, also super nice. He's done some coloring work for IDW. He's done some GI Joe covers. And what I liked about what he brought to this is that he had this idea for doing this like brushstroke style that made everything feel very vintage and of the 1940s era. And it really kind of elevates all of the art that Pablo is doing. And then I can't forget about my great letterer, Marco Ventura. He's from Italy. He does a lot of web comics, but he's very popular in Italy. And he has a very firm understanding of the lettering rules, and he has very good reasons for when to break them. I've read a bunch of how tos on the sort of rules of comic book making, and then he'll make a choice and I go, oh, but what about this ironclad rule? And he has a very good reason for like, well, this is not going to fit in this type of panel because X, Y, and Z. So he's very good. This is a very good all around team, like very knowledgeable. They're very great at what they do.
Nice. I mean, I really enjoy the art that you have previewed there on Kickstarter, and so I don't know. Is there anything else about the Kickstarter that maybe you wanted to mention, or do you want to talk a little bit? I'm kind of interested in this webcomic, seeing how it's a pistachio with a mustache, and it's based on Garfield because like I grew up with Garfield too. I mean, I grew up with the little volumes and then the big treasuries. So,
Yeah,
um, but
I would get those volumes. My parents would give me those volumes all the time, and I would just read them cover to cover. And it was almost like you loved it when you were reading it, and the second like you hit the back cover, you're just like kind of upset because there's just no more Garfield to read until you find the next book. But in terms of the Star Noir Kickstarter, let's see. Definitely go back the book. We've worked extremely hard on it. It'll be running through September. We are just nearing half 50% funding. So now we're kind of just working on the back half. And then we'll be at New York City Comic Con this year, showing it off to people. So
I might be there, so I definitely have to look you up.
Okay, yeah, cool. Yeah, for
So,
sure. Yeah, I'll be rocking around just showing anybody who will give me 5 minutes.
well, we'll connect offline, and if if I am allowed to go down, aloud,
Wow.
he says, then yeah, we should definitely meet up because I'd like to meet you in person and kind of see some of your other stuff
For
because
sure, yeah.
I
And
mean
then I'll have even I'll have new pages that you haven't seen from Star Noir, and I'll be able to show them to you.
now, I mean, I would say anybody would enjoy this, but is there a particular audience that would think maybe would specifically enjoy this?
I think it's if you like that very classic noir of like old Hollywood, the flashy suits, the cars, the fast like rapid fire dialogue that from those things, the the kind of cast of characters who are not good people, but they have a heroic tendency to them. And then on the flip side, if you not only if you like aliens, but you like the kind of spooky iterations of aliens that just kind of almost make you uncomfortable. They have such a like a realness and an honesty to them. It's not trying to be this fantastic telling of aliens. It's all inspired by real abduction stories and just trying to take the little details that they keep mentioning and finding a way to weave that into the story. Like there are some abduction stories that talk about how the alien aircraft moves, and they say that it sounds like a series of tuning forks going off. So in the first encounter that Alan has with the alien, you have that dialogue, that sound effect of tuning forks kind of going through the panel. And then another thing from that is that it creates a kind of a cold zone around from the metal. It has this kind of reactive thing to it where it freezes the grass around Alan's backyard, and that comes from also another abduction story that I've read, and it's a detail that people have mentioned a couple of times. So we found a way to put things like that in there.
All right, so kind of give us your final pitch for the Kickstarter, where people can find you on the social media, where they can check out your work. Where can they check out your webcomic?
Well, you can check out the webcomic. It is I Am Mustachio on Instagram. It's very funny. Star Noir, it's a great 6-part murder mystery. There are a ton of red herrings. Just when you think you have the story figured out, it takes a hard left on you. Yeah, if you like spooky aliens and you love all the flashiness of the classic old Hollywood stuff, all the old Hollywood movies, you'll definitely love those. You can find me on the social medias. I'm on Instagram at BananaBat, and on Twitter it is T/J, the word /T/J on Twitter. Yeah, and then Star Noir will be running on Kickstarter throughout September, and it will end the second week of October.
All right, well, I want to thank you for taking the time to chat today, and if people are watching this, they'll never know the issues that we had.
I hope to see you at Comic-Con.
Yeah, hopefully. I'm hoping to be able to make it, and if I do, I'll let you know, and we'll have to meet up somewhere and maybe grab a drink or something. I don't know if you drink, but
yeah, sounds good. Sounds good.
You can grab a drink or something.
For sure.
And then I'll get to look at more of your stuff, which I really want to see. Well, have a good rest of the day, and stay safe, stay healthy, and thank you for taking the time to chat.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
And when book 2 starts, then you have to come back and tell us more about that, and
absolutely, I will definitely
more about the series and all that.
Yes, for sure, absolutely, we'll definitely do that.
All right, well, thank you. Have a great afternoon, and thank you for being so understanding about the technical glitches.
That's okay. That's all right.
All right, catch you later.
Have a good one.